The desert had a sound. Not a roar, not even a whisper, something subtler. Like the breath between heartbeats, the stillness that waits just before something happens. Dr. Anya Volkov listened to that silence as their old truck grumbled across the flat, endless wasteland of a Strachan oblong. The windows rattled in their frames, the glass veined with cracks. Every few miles, a gust of wind carried dust that looked like ash. Sergei spat out of the window and muttered something about the dead still walking here. Anya didn't answer. She was reading her father's notebook again, a leather-bound relic, brittle and scorched at the edges. The last entry was dated May 17, 1987. They lied. The specimen is not of this world. It dreams even when dead. That sentence had been the beginning of everything, the end of her peace. Her career, her belief that science was safe from myth. When she was 6, her father had kissed her forehead, promising he'd return from Kapustin Yar in a week. He never did. The government claimed it was an aerospace accident. But the night after his disappearance, she dreamt of him standing at the end of her bed. Eyes white as snow, whispering, "They're beneath us now." 30 years later, she was finally going to find out what he meant. "Your father," Sergei said suddenly, his eyes fixed on the horizon. "He works down there, yes. The tunnels." She nodded. "You were a soldier then. You know what they did here?" He smiled without humor. His teeth were yellow, worn. "I know enough to keep my distance. We used to watch the sky over this place. Lights moving faster than any jet. Sometimes, men went out to check and didn't come back. Command said wolves took them. Wolves with metal bones, maybe." The truck jolted as the road gave way to cracked concrete and rusted barbed wire. Ahead, the skeletal outline of the Kapustin Yar complex rose from the sand. Watchtowers leaning like drunks, hangars half buried by dunes, and the faint stench of oil and rot in the air. The wind changed. It carried something else now, a hum, deep and irregular. Like machinery buried far below. Anya stepped out, clutching her recorder and notebook. The ground felt softer than it should, like skin stretched too thin. Sergei lit a cigarette, watching the sky. It was the color of lead. "You feel that?" she asked. "Yeah," he said, tapping ash onto the dirt. "The ground's breathing again." They walked toward the gates. The metal was warped, blistered by heat. The signs still read, "No entry." The words looked freshly painted, though no one had lived here for decades. Anya's flashlight flickered. She adjusted the dial, and for a second, just one, she thought she saw something standing inside the hangar. A shape, thin, almost translucent, like a shadow pretending to be human. Then it was gone. Her pulse quickened. "Sergei, did you see?" He shook his head. "Don't say it. Just move." Inside the hangar, the air was colder. The floor was covered with papers, reports stamped, SOV, secret blueprints, and old film reels, scattered like bones. On one wall, a mural had been painted long ago, a rocket launching toward the stars, watched by faceless figures in white coats. But beneath the paint, faded and almost erased, was another layer, something drawn in haste, something red. It looked like a spiral made of flesh. "Holy Mother," Sergei muttered. Anya took a closer look. The spiral seemed to pulse in the flashlight's beam. "It's biological," she whispered. Then came the sound, faint but distinct. Not wind, not machinery. A heartbeat. Slow, steady, coming from below the floor. Sergei froze, his hand hovering near his holster. "It's not possible." Anya crouched, brushing aside the dust. There, a metal hatch, bolted shut, with her father's handwriting scratched into it. "Do not open unless you are ready to listen." The hum beneath the ground deepened. as if something vast and patient had been waiting for those words to be seen again. Anya's fingers trembled. As she touched the hatch, it felt warm, the silence of the desert shattered, a scream of metal and wind. The air charged with the smell of ozone and burnt meat. Sergei grabbed her arm. "We leave. Now." But she didn't move. The hum had become a voice, and it was saying her name. When Anya awoke, she was lying in a corridor that smelled of copper and ozone. The flashlight had died, but the walls glowed faintly on their own, a wet, biological luminescence, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. For a moment, she didn't know where she ended, and the corridor began. Her left hand was bleeding from the shards of glass. The cut seemed shallow, but the blood didn't fall to the floor, it floated upward, drawn toward the ceiling like smoke in reverse. "Sergei," she whispered. No answer. Only the soft clicking sound of something moving nearby. She pushed herself up, clutching the recorder that still sputtered, with faint static. Through the noise, a voice emerged, a woman's whisper this time. "He's feeding it. Anya, you mustn't let it finish." The voice faded. She followed the sound of dragging footsteps deeper into the corridor. The air grew thick with humidity and a low hum, almost like chanting the same sound she'd heard when they first entered the base. But layered now with human breath, Sergei was kneeling in a round chamber filled with rusted machinery and broken tanks. He'd taken off his jacket, his shirt soaked with sweat, and in his hands he held a fragment of bone, pale, almost luminous. The thing from the containment unit was gone. "Sergei," she said, approaching slowly, "what are you doing?" He looked up, eyes glazed. His lips moved, but his voice sounded distant. "It told me the truth. All of them lied, the generals, the scientists. But not it. It said we were made for this." "For what?" "To finish what they started." Anya froze. The floor beneath Sergei's knees rippled, as if made of liquid flesh. Thin tendrils rose from it, pink and veined, brushing against his arms, his neck. He didn't resist. He smiled. Sergei stopped, too late. The tendrils pierced his skin like needles. His scream was muffled as his body began to change. Muscle writhing beneath the surface, bones shifting with wet cracks. His skin turned translucent, his veins lighting up like blue wires. Anya stumbled backward, horrified. His face distorted, mouth stretching too wide. When he spoke again, it wasn't his voice. It was her father's, clear, calm, and impossibly near. "He's just learning the language, Anya. Don't be afraid." The tendrils retracted, leaving Sergei standing, trembling, his flesh slick and glistening as if sculpted from wax. He blinked, and his eyes reflected her like mirrors. "Your blood," he said, pointing to her hand. "It woke it. It remembers you." "What do you mean?" "The DNA Volkov's line. It carries a pattern. It called to you through the years." Behind him, the walls began to shift. The metal peeled back in layers, revealing tissue beneath, pulsating red, and covered in Cyrillic symbols that writhed, as though alive. Anya clutched her father's notebook, flipping through its pages, desperate for sense. There, in her father's final entry, she saw a phrase she hadn't noticed before. It asked for communion. Not contact, communion. She looked up. The air itself was vibrating. The voice came again, now surrounding her, intimate like breath, against her ear. "You carry the echo of our beginning. We remember you. Join us." Images filled her mind. A desert night sky filled with burning stars. A silver craft bleeding light as it fell. Soviet soldiers surrounding it, weapons raised. A creature dragged from the wreck, still alive, its eyes human. Then experiments. Screams, the tearing of flesh and metal. Her father standing over the containment tank, whispering prayers to something that wasn't God. Anya collapsed, gripping her head as the visions bled into reality. The walls turned translucent, showing forms trapped inside human figures pressed into the tissue like fossils. Mouths moving in silent agony. Sergei reached for her. "It's beautiful, isn't it? We're part of something eternal now." She crawled away, shaking. "You're not Sergei anymore," he smiled. "No, but neither are you." The hum deepened, and the air shimmered like heat haze. From the ceiling descended tendrils tipped with glassy eyes, each reflecting her face. They moved in rhythm with her heartbeat. "Anya," the voice whispered, now sounding unmistakably like her father's, "the flesh is only the beginning. The mind is the altar." She stumbled toward a doorway, half melted, half grown, and slammed it shut behind her. The next room was filled with film reels, stacked in neat rows, untouched by decay. She loaded one into the old projector, hands trembling. The film sputtered to life. Grainy footage of scientists in white coats, her father among them. They were injecting something luminous into a man's spine as the film continued. The man on the table convulsed, screaming. His skin peeled away like wax, revealing light beneath. The others backed away in horror, except her father, who leaned closer. Whispering something into the man's ear, the man stopped screaming. He looked straight into the camera and smiled. Then he said, clear as a bell, "Anya Volkov will finish this." The film melted behind her. The walls began to whisper her name, and from the shadows at the back of the room, something crawled, not walking, not slithering, but moving like liquid thought, given form. Its voice was a chorus. "The blood remembers." Anya ran. The hatch resisted at first. Decades of rust, sand, and silence had sealed it, like a wound that didn't want to be reopened. Sergei cursed, jamming the crowbar into the seam, and with a grinding shriek, the door gave way. The air that rose from below wasn't stale. It was moist, thick, and disturbingly warm. The exhalation of something that had been waiting too long. They descended into the dark. Their flashlights carved thin, trembling tunnels through the blackness, glinting off metal walls, slick with condensation. The air smelled of iron mold, and faintly something sweet, like blood, gone to sugar. "Jesus," Sergei muttered, his voice hollow. "You feel that? It's vibrating." Anya pressed her palm against the wall. It pulsed softly, rhythmically, as though beneath the metal ran veins, instead of pipes. The stairwell spiraled down farther than any of the old blueprints suggested. Occasionally, they passed faded warning signs. Biosection 4, do not breach. Others were written by hand, in frantic Cyrillic. It hears through skin. They reached a massive steel door, dented and warped, as if something had tried to claw its way out. Stenciled in black, across the top. 12 Object 12. Anya's breath caught. This is it. My father's final project. Sergei aimed his flashlight at the door's lock. The mechanism was fused shut, but half the bolts were already broken, twisted outward. From the seams leaked a thin red-black residue, still wet. "Something came through here," he whispered. Anya switched on her recorder. "Dr. Anya Volkov. Entering Lower Kapustin Yar Containment Wing. The year is 2025. Initial readings, the recorder crackled violently, and through the static came a man's voice, her father's voice. "Anya, not you too." She froze. The device slipped from her hand, clattering to the floor. The voice didn't repeat, but she knew that tone. A mix of love and despair, as if the words were torn from a place where hope had rotted long ago. Sergei crossed himself. "We shouldn't be here. We already are," she said, and pushed open the door. Inside, the temperature dropped instantly. Frost clung to the walls, but the center of the room steamed, alive with slow, pulsating warmth. The containment chamber stood before them. Glass fractured but intact, filled with a milky fluid. Inside floated a shape. It was humanoid only in suggestion. Limbs elongated, skin translucent, like jellyfish flesh. The face, if it was a face, was smooth. Featureless, but beneath the surface, something moved, rearranging itself in rhythm with the chamber's heartbeat. On the glass, someone had scrawled in dried blood. It learned language. Then it learned hunger. Anya felt drawn closer, her scientific curiosity warring with the primitive terror gnawing at her spine. This isn't a specimen. It's a sin, Sergei finished, voice shaking. Around the chamber were dozens of smaller containment units. Some held partial remains, arms, faces, spinal columns that seemed to writhe faintly even in death. Others contained nothing but dust and shreds of fabric. She spotted a clipboard pinned to the nearest unit, its pages smeared with something brown and sticky. The heading read, Phase 4 Integration Trials. Host Compatibility VLK-87 Dr. V. Her heart stopped. VLK Volkov. Her father had been the test subject. Sergei turned toward her, pale as salt. They used him. He volunteered, Anya whispered. He always believed contact could unify minds. Even species. Then why does everything in here look like hell, chewed it up? A sudden tremor ran through the floor. Not an earthquake, but something alive, stretching its limbs after a long dream. The fluid inside the main chamber rippled. Bubbles rose, then came the knock. From inside, 3 slow, deliberate raps against the glass. Sergei raised his gun. Don't move. But Anya couldn't stop herself. She stepped forward, hand trembling as it met the cold surface of the chamber. The thing turned. The face began to form beneath the membrane sockets, deepening, mouth shaping, until she was staring into her father's eyes. The glass cracked. A fine web, then another. The creature's hand, long skeletal, ending in translucent claws, pressed back against hers. Papa. She whispered. It smiled. Not with kindness, but recognition. The chamber shattered outward. Fluid cascaded across the floor. Steaming, reeking of ammonia and decay. The creature slumped forward, boneless and dripping, yet moving with the deliberate curiosity of a newborn. Sergei fired once, twice. The bullets vanished into it like stones into water. The thing rose taller, its skin rippling with faces, human, alien, all whispering. It opened its mouth, and her father's voice came out. Anya, help me remember what I was. The lights exploded. Darkness swallowed everything. And in that blackness, Anya felt something brush her mind. Soft, searching, tender, and she understood what her father had meant when he wrote, "It dreams even when dead," because now it was awake.